The last assignment and the last section of content in the course for this semester is focusing on professionalism. And when we're talking about professionalism, we're not talking about ethics-specific professionalism because we've already covered that in great detail. So what we're really looking at now is how to maintain professionalism in a workplace and how to deal professionally with difficult people, challenging situations, annoyances, however you want to approach the topic. So although our focus is working in the legal field, these types of issues are not specific only to the legal field. They can be from any type of profession. So if you have never worked in a legal field, but you have worked with people in employment, in a volunteer activity, in some sort of group, on a team, anything like that, you know what it's like to work with people and what works and what doesn't work. And so that's really what we're focusing on. We do this section of the course because of the feedback that we've received from our Paralegal Studies Advisory Committee. And so, an example of something that we've heard, stories, and this was not one of our graduates or students, fortunately, but a paralegal manager was telling a story how she was interviewing a prospective paralegal applicant, and they took a phone call during the middle of the interview. And then they got off the phone and the paralegal manager said, "I think we're done now." It seems really common sense that you would not take a phone call in the middle of an interview or that your phone would even be on. But for every situation that we talk about where the majority of people are like, "That's insane. Why do people do that?" It happens. And sometimes, quite honestly, some of the people sitting in this class over the years, I've heard stories and gotten feedback on them in ways that were not the most professional way to handle things. So it is important that we are aware of how we act, how we come across, and how we respond to people. Just as we were talking about at the beginning of the semester, trying to maintain some objectivity about ourselves, because no one ever thinks we're that person, but sometimes we are, in fact, that person. And I apologize for the dog barking, and hopefully that will not happen again. So just getting back to, what we want to be thinking about here is kind of the best version of ourselves or the best version of a coworker and what that person does, how they handle things. That's really what we want to be focusing on. So getting into the details of the presentation. This is basically impromptu. You're going to be randomly assigned your team, and you will be teams of 3 because right now it looks like we have 15 students in the class. So we'll have 5 teams of 3, and you're going to be put into those groups by D12. I'm just going to have them randomly assign you. I will post the groups and the date you are presenting on D2L no later than Thursday, April 13th. And the dates of the presentation will be Tuesday, April 18th, Thursday, April 20th, and Tuesday, April 25th. So you will know exactly what date you are presenting. You will come in at 5:30 that night you are presenting. With your group, you will choose a topic. You literally are picking out of a bag, and I'll come back to the topics in a minute. You'll pick your topic. You will have the ability to choose again if, as a group, you do not feel like you can come up with something. But you'll get your topic. You will then go into an empty classroom. You will have 15 minutes to figure out what you're going to talk about. So it is very impromptu. It works very well. People have enough experience and enough ideas that you can, as a group, get up there and talk for 9 minutes total. So that's basically how it will go. Now, the discussion is meant to be the beginning of a conversation about that topic. So your group is not the end-all be-all on this topic. It is going to lead into a topic. So after you present your piece of it, people are going to participate and either talk about things you talked about, tell their own ideas and opinions on it, but trying to get some good tools and some resources of how to deal with different things. A lot of times we just don't think of things. We get kind of in the moment. We feel a little trapped. We're not sure what to do. So, getting ideas from other people is one of the, best ways to prepare ourselves to work in a professional environment. And people can feel free to share, as much or as little of their experiences as they feel comfortable doing. But I will say, when people are willing to share their experiences, both positive and negative, or what they have seen, both positive and negative, it really does make a good difference, and it gives people much better ideas of what they need to do. So regarding the topics, normally we would brainstorm these topics in class, but since we are not actually meeting for class, we're going to be doing it in a discussion board. And so you'll see the discussion board presentation topics. And between now and Monday afternoon, you have to get into the discussion board and you have to come up with at least one topic dealing with professionalism. And then you want to give a brief explanation of it, or description of it, because sometimes things sound alike when they're not really alike, or somebody says something and I interpret it one way, differently than they interpret it. So give a brief description of it. The topics that are going to be the possibilities of what you will be talking about in class will come straight from that discussion board. So we should have at a minimum 15 good topics for 5 groups, which should be plenty, but you have to get on and you have to do the topics that is part of your grade. And if you don't put in a topic and be part of it, then there will be more points for you to lose than just the 5 points for choosing a topic. You have to participate at this point. And you cannot see what anybody else posts until you post a topic. Then I would strongly encourage you to look at some of the other ideas, because that may give you an additional idea, and go ahead and post an additional idea. We can't have too many topics. And also at times I may jump in and ask for clarification, because if I don't understand what you mean, I need you to clarify so I know how to write this up for the actual topic. So we're going to be doing that discussion board. Should not take very much time. You don't have to worry about responding, 3 other times or anything like that with the other discussion boards, but you just have to get on. You have to post a good topic, and you have to double check to make sure that the clarification isn't needed. Otherwise, when your topic doesn't get used, or I interpret it the way I think you mean, and it may not be what you mean, and it may not be the topic that you want. So we want to choose things that we feel collectively, or rather you feel collectively, are important and worth discussing, and things that will be valuable in the field. So the guidelines to this. Absolutely no research. I am debating about whether or not I'm going to allow you to take your cell phones with you when you actually go to discuss the topic, because there is not supposed to be any research, and in the past people have actually looked things up, which I would prefer you not to do. You don't need to do it. You just don't need to do it. All you're going to have is those 15 minutes before class, so you do not need to contact your team members. You do not need to talk to them until that time. There's not going to be any handouts, any PowerPoints, any prezzies, nothing. It's just going to be 3 people up there talking. It is impromptu, but you still have to be prepared as you can be. You have to have some idea of what you're talking about, who's going to talk first, how you're going to organize it. I will provide each of you with a 3x5 index card, and you can keep notes on one side of it if you want to write things down to help you remember when you're presenting. So I will give that to you the night of the presentation. Obviously you don't have time, nor do you want to try to memorize it, but you want to understand the topic. And believe me, people do very well with 15 minutes. So you will be fine. Your group will have to decide how to focus the presentation. Sometimes the topics are fairly broad. I will give you an example. One year the topic was social media, and a group tried to do way too much. In 9 minutes, you cannot handle every aspect of social media. So, and I just potentially gave you a topic, but if you do want to use that topic, I would suggest that you explain what you mean with that topic in more detail. So you want to focus it appropriately. You want to keep it more narrow. You don't want to try to do too much. Time limit, 9 minutes. And I time you as a group. I don't time you each individually, but you want to make sure that everybody is participating and, is close to the same amount of time as possible. You don't have to go person A talk, person B talk, person C talk. You can mix it up and go back and forth amongst yourselves. That's up to you, but total 9 minutes. I will give you a 1 minute sign. It's actually just a 1 on a piece of paper, but I will raise that up when you have 1 minute left. So whoever is presenting knows that they have to wrap it up. And if you exceed that time, I just cut you off, and you do not want that to happen at all. So again, 9 minutes, not very long. You want to make sure that you are focused enough. Then in the materials, the handout, the assignment that's on D2L, I gave you some information from Toastmasters International, which if you're not familiar with that, it is basically what I know of the group is they get together and they literally like draw topics out of a jar and you stand up and you talk. It's truly impromptu in the moment. You don't get 15 minutes. And we're just doing a version of that. And it's the goal of the people who do that. The goal is for some people to just become more comfortable with public speaking. Other people just like to do that type of thing. But I gave you some information in case that kind of gives you some things to think about when you want to, before you actually are presenting. So the total grade for the presentation is 65 points. And you can kind of see there in the assignment how I'm going to be grading it. So you get, if you present a topic and you explain it and clarify it, you'll get 5 points right then and there. So that's from the discussion board. As a group, the rest of the content topics, you really get the same grade together. Your introduction and conclusion. So again, I would prefer you and strongly encourage you not just to say the end or that's all, but to have, to have an actual closing line, or let your voice just sort of trail off like you're done. You should have, a conclusion. So whoever goes last, they should have a 1 sentence wrap up, or even a little summary. That's up to you, but there should actually be a conclusion. You should have some main points in there. And again, it's up to you how you organize it, but I'm looking for what your group has found to be most important and what you're trying to convey, the organization of it. You're not going to know every word that each member is saying, but you need to have some organization. The quality of it, which is usually pretty easy, 5 points to get. But you have to actually be saying something of substance, not just repeating what your group mate has already said, or rambling on incoherently, which usually is not an issue. And then that time management, you do have to pay attention to the time. If you're going to be the first person speaking in your group and you have now talked over 5 minutes, you have really made it tough for your group members. And so even though it sounds good, like, oh, I don't have to talk as long, you're hardly talking at all, and that's not good. So everybody has to manage the time. Then the rest is more individual grading, your voice and articulation. Stand up straight, look at the audience, look around, do not look down, do not just focus on one person or one section of the room. Feel like you are talking to everyone. Think of it as a discussion. So you want to pay attention to that. Pay attention to your body language. Again, the standing up straight, your head up, not looking bored to tears when your group member is presenting, looking like you're actually paying attention to what they're saying. Those types of things, maintaining eye contact with the group overall. Having a certain level of energy or enthusiasm, which tends to happen somewhat naturally because the nerves do kick in a little bit, and so people usually do have that. But if you are the opposite, when you get nervous, you kind of curl up within yourself, you need to stand up like you are interested in. This is the goal of picking the topics, that we are picking topics that we are interested in, because if you're interested in it, it makes it much easier and you're going to be much more interested in it. The fact that if you are using notes, that you are not trying to read from your note card. And professional dress. So everybody has to dress professionally, business or business casual. You do not have to wear a suit. You do not have to wear a skirt. You do not have to wear a dress, but if you usually are able to come to class in jeans and a sweatshirt, you need to kick it up a notch. No jeans, no tennis shoes or, athletic shoes, that type of thing. Nice top, nice pair of slacks, and a nice pair of shoes. But again, you don't have to be formal like I'm going to an interview, but you do need to look business, casual, professional. And then the last section is your 2 team members are going to also score you. And those are the 3 content sections there. Your contribution that you made to the presentation, both before in the setup of the class, as well as when you are presenting, and then your presentation itself. So the information that you've shared and your delivery, which really gets into, are you speaking loud enough? Are you looking at the audience? Do